just kind of coming around the bend here. I want to get my groove going. All right, we're gonna idle up. I'm in 4th gear, but I'm only about half throttle, so that's a pretty good speed. You know, you can see the tree edge here. Out so far, nothing really grows anyways, because I got woodchucks so bad, and the trees take a lot of the nutrients and moisture out of the ground. I'm going to tell you about probably 8 yards out from the edge here. So I plant it anyways. Every year I tell myself I'm going to put clover and chicory in there and plant just outside that row, and I never end up doing it.
Don't mind me if I smack my husband. Hope everyone's doing well. Lulu, how are you, dear? Been waiting for tonight for a while. We've had him on the books for a while. Farmall Fanatic. If you like tractors, aside from Hamiltonville Farms, you're going to enjoy Farmall Fanatic. Sort of like a neighbor of ours, state-wise, I suppose. Not really a neighbor, as far as states. I'm tongue-tied here, Daryl.
You're tongue-tied?
I'm tongue-tied.
Well, he's probably 3.5 hours away. In Pennsylvania.
Okay.
He gets
probably just as cold as it is here.
He gets a fair amount of snow. Actually, I think he's further north than what we are. Matter of fact, I'm sure he is. So.
Yeah, I think he's sort of closer to Rochester.
He's probably not too far from Quaker Steak and Lube, is my guess.
Probably.
I'm not seeing any confirmation on his face there, but Quaker
Steak and Lube, yeah, they're everywhere up here.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they originated in Sharon, Pennsylvania, which that's, I'm going to tell you, hour and 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the offshoots. I mean, there's one in Erie. I guess you could call it Summit, but everybody calls Summit Mill Creek Erie. So yeah, not too far at all.
Okay, well, I guess we got him on the screen.
We got him on the screen. He's live.
On.
So say hi to everybody out there.
Hello, everyone, and I cannot see the chat, so if you're saying hi to me currently, I'm not ignoring you directly, just indirectly ignoring you.
So make sure your questions are in all caps, and we will catch it and then repeat them for Mr. Farmall here to answer for you. And we have 44 and growing here. Before we get started with our hour show with our guest, we haven't decided when we're going to do it, but we have our 10K giveaway coming up. We have cookbooks from Dining on a Dime. Tara sent me 2 cookbooks. I have Rare Seeds. Baker Creek is going to send out a package to one of the trivia winners. I don't know what's in the package. All I know is it's going to be awesome. Stacy Lynn Harris is donating a cookbook. Samson Farms is donating one of his garden dibbles. Prairie Homestead is giving a cookbook, and I have a book for Homestead Skills. So, and we're still growing with our, still getting letters that people are donating for our 10K giveaway. So, want everybody to be ready for that. So let's get him.
Well,
talking here.
Well, yeah, we got to get him
Well,
talking.
yeah, you're the one who can get them talking.
So
Well, that Farmall Fanatic, the one thing about me and talking, we're not friends. I'm kind of camera shy. Anybody that's ever been to my live stream, I'm sure they've depicted that.
well, no, I don't know about that.
Well, we know you like to go to auctions.
Yeah, I definitely like to go. Well, pretty specific auctions
Right,
though.
like tractor
you know,
auction stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
farming equipment. I'm into my channel, the nucleus of it is antique farming at its finest. And, so I like to go to these auctions and see what goes on. Now in the spring, they come right out of the gate, and there will be one auction in particular that kind of is oriented toward red antique stuff. And, my name kind of says it all, explanatory as far as that goes. As far as I'm a Farmall guy, I'm not really a green guy. A few videos ago, I did put up a John Deere B doing some disking, some light disking, because it's antique.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did put that video in there. But yes, love the auctions.
Well, Four Blessings Farm says, looking at buying a Farmall B soon. Where do you find parts and books on them?
Oh, find your local Case IH dealer. In the books, I can tell you, just go to eBay. You'll find all kinds of manuals and stuff like that on eBay. That's probably the best place. But as far as parts, if you have a Case IH dealer, that's going to be your parts dealer. A lot of your basic parts you can also get on eBay too. But I uploaded a video today giving us a light, gentle lecture about purchasing stuff on eBay, and in particular a timing light that didn't work when I just pulled it out of the package. So yeah, the thing about International, Ford, and John Deere, finding parts for any one of those three tractors, you're not going to have a problem.
Well, I'm a little curious. Did you grow up farming? I mean, have you been doing this all your life, or did you develop an interest later on?
Yeah, when I grew up, everybody in my town, or at least I guess I could extend that to this part of the state, either worked at a factory or you dairy farmed. So and we dairy farmed. Not a lot of cows, probably 60, but at the time that was a living. And you'll stay plenty busy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Many, but what I was just talking to a friend the other day, when I was growing up, and this is just numbers, not accurate, but, let's say there were 200 million Americans living in the United States then, and they were drinking X amount of milk. And now what's there, 3.25, and we're drinking less milk, and I can't figure that out. So I by the way, you're going to have to keep me focused because I'll get off on a tangent.
Oh, you're fine.
So currently you're not dairy farming though?
No, crop farming. Delving a little bit into chickens, poultry, egg production, but slowly doing that.
Okay, so your crop is primarily soybeans?
Corn, soybeans, yep.
Corn and soybeans. And
yep.
Is that the type of thing where you alternate every year? You plant corn one year and then you plant soybeans the next, and just bounce back and forth?
Yep. Soybeans are they're a nitrogen fixer, and corn is a heavy feeder of nitrogen, so they coincide pretty good with each other.
Okay, and kind of help us out, because I'm sure the largest majority of the people in the chat here and us are, although we kind of know a little tiny bit about farming, we don't understand all this as far as the nitrogen fixers, and we've all used the term and heard the term crop rotations and things like that. But then it gets deeper. It gets into cover crops and different hay cuttings and planting straw and all kinds of stuff. So explain to us just exactly how that all goes down, how that works.
Well, I don't do any hay because I don't have animals that utilize the hay, although I could get into it and sell it to people that do. I just don't. I don't have the equipment to do hay. I don't really want to do hay. If you're going to get into hay production, I suppose you could get cheap equipment and get into it. But I'm telling you, You go price a halfway decent baler. It's not cheap to get into. Crop rotation is key because I'll just break it down into the simplest forms. Certain plants use certain things out of the soil, and that the other ones don't. So you rotate them out and you have a pretty good balance. Now, I'm not afraid to go 2 years in a row, say with beans, and then the third year go corn. So corn's actually in the grass family. It just produces a few ears on the stalk.
Okay, and so when you grow the corn, do you grow the corn for human consumption or for animal consumption?
Animal. I do have my own stash for, sweet corn stash, but it's field corn. It's for, most of the crops that are grown in this country go to actually feed swine, pig food, and then cattle. So yeah, it's field corn. The deer love it.
Well, and you also kind of do some deer plots. Is that correct? If I caught that correctly?
Yep. I do setups for archery hunting, and people they get a little bit confused. Why rifle hunt? Okay, well we can set you up too. We just don't have to be exact about it. In archery we're trying to get a deer at 20 yards. In rifle you can get a deer at 200 and make a lot more mistakes. So I liked the archery end of things. Once you shoot a deer with a bow, at least for me and a lot of people I associate with, you'll never go back to rifle. It's just the challenge is just it's the thrill of it. There's fewer people in the woods hunting out when it archery. Although I live in Pennsylvania, we're the most heavily hunted state in all of the union, and beyond that, I live in the most heavily hunted wildlife management unit in the most heavily hunted state. So
Wow.
there's like layers of nonsense, but
well, and I see over your right shoulder you've got a specimen hanging on the wall there.
And
I sure do. That's the double
somebody
main beam buck.
Somebody mentioned the shadow looks like there was an arrow through it. If you look at it, it does.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
shadow.
that's the arrow. I always put the arrow in the antlers.
So there is one. Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of them things. It's like, I don't want people thinking I shot it with the gun. I want people thinking I was heavily challenged
There
and
you
got
go.
it. But,
There you go.
but that was a deer I actually did shoot in rifle with a bow. I shot that deer the first day of rifle. I had him on pattern. I had 3 encounters with that buck during archery season, but the closest I did have him at 20 yards one evening, and it was about 5 minutes too late for me to see my shooting pins on my bow. So I just had to sit there and watch him till he left, and then I got down and got out of there. And then the last day of archery, I encountered him. I had a decoy set up, and I was doing doe bleat calls, and a real doe come out, and she took him away, and I couldn't get him. He was at about 70 yards in. So I thought it was a wash. I thought my season was over. And then the Friday rifle here did start on Monday. It's going to start Saturdays now, but it did start on Monday then, and Friday night and Saturday night, I saw him come out of the old pasture. I call it the hotel. It's a deer hotel where all the deer live. And he come out of there Friday and Saturday. He didn't come out Sunday night. And I thought, it's not unusual for a 3 or 4 year old buck to be on pattern 2-3 days and be on a different, in a different location, just for safety purposes. And I thought, what, the heck with it. He was coming out, last couple of days, I'm going to go sit. I got the right wind, and then 10 minutes left of shooting light. He come out. I looked over to my left, and 25 yards, game over.
Wow.
So, do you hunt any other wildlife besides deer?
Not really. I want to hunt turkey, but that's the problem with, like, say, spring gobbler is that it's during planting season,
Okay.
and I just don't have time.
Sure.
There's a question here, Bryan Creek Farm. Any suggestions to fix heavy clay soil cheap on a couple of acres?
No, not really. Heavy clay soil is heavy clay soil, and I mean, I've got some soil here that's clay.
Your phone turned.
Oh, did it? Okay, hang on a minute. I'll fix that. I've got some soil here that is clay, and there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, unless the only thing that I've seen people do is try to maybe tile it or take a ripper through there. But if you're going to take a ripper through it, you're going to need a big, heavy tractor, unless it's just a single bottom ripper.
Yeah, it takes some horsepower to pull that stake through the ground.
Yeah, yeah. When you're 3 foot down, dragging 3-4 rippers through, I've seen like 200 horsepower tractors spin tires.
Wow. Dutch
In 4-wheel drive.
Dutch Off-Grid Homesteading is asking, are you not afraid by only hurting and not killing by a bow?
No, I don't take a shot I'm not sure of. All my shots are double lung. I've never wounded one. I practice all spring and summer. I start shooting my bow. I won't for January, February, March, but as soon as the sun starts to shine in April, I'm out snapping arrows at different, and I can tell you most of my archery setups are for 25 yards and under, but I don't practice that. If you want to be really, really good at 25 yards, you shoot 50. So 25 yards, in basketball is a layup. And no, I always double lung. And you're not going to get it, whether it's a bullet or an arrow, you're never going to get a better shot than that. And if I'm completely, and I always either get broadside or quartering away. I don't take quartering twos. They say there's two types of people that don't miss deer, and or don't make bad shots. Ones that don't take shots at deer or liars. But I'm here to tell you, I've quartering away, broadside, 20 yards, top pin, release, aim steady, double lung, they're done. So, but I can see why the question was asked.
So, is this something that you developed as growing up? I mean, did your parents or did your dad hunt, or older brothers?
Yeah.
Or
Yep. We were, at 12 years old, I had a rifle in my hand, and we went and stood by a tree all day for 8-9 hours and froze our butt off. And if we saw deer, we saw deer. If we didn't, we went home, and I just learned over the years there's a better way to do it. Hunt smarter, not harder. I can get a lot more done on a 2-hour sit than we used to get done standing by a fence in a tree for 8 hours. Of course, the advent of trail cameras makes it all the difference in the world. I mean, if Capper Outdoors, in one of his videos, he says, I don't hunt unless I have a reason. I follow that policy entirely. If I don't have a reason, I don't go out. So in other words, if I don't have deer on pattern or one that I want to take, I don't go sit.
So in you creating your deer plot, how exactly do you do that? What number one, what makes a good deer plot? How large is it? Is this do you do anything else with that piece of ground besides that, or just kind of tell everybody how you approach that?
Well, I have a lot of people that, they ask me, they're like, what do you hunt over? And I'm like, I really like to hunt over soybeans, because if you have a soybean field, you can see them a mile away. If you have a cornfield, they're going to ghost you. Now, you might hear them crunching through the corn a little bit, their body's brushing up against it. So you might, 40, 50 yards away or whatever, but you still don't know what they are. I really like hunting over soybeans. Now, the trick is, what I found out is if you have under 3 acres in any amount of deer at all, you're going to probably want to go with a clover, chicory type mix. It'll, if you like I say, if you got a good deer herd, that plot will take the abuse, where a soybean plot or a corn plot at 2 acres will not. They will eat you out of house and home, and then come hunting season, you won't have anything to hunt over. So I always say the general rule of thumb is 3 acres or less, clover chicory. 3 acres or more, it's up to you. You can go, really you need, 4. I mean, if you're just doing a food plot and not a crop field that you're going to hunt over and then later pick, you can do a corn soybean combination, and wish the neighbors luck in outdoing you on that, because you'll have every deer in the neighborhood on that plot.
You and I don't know, but I do know some folks here that use apples for they literally emptied some apple trees and put them in an area of the ground to attract deer.
Oh yeah. Well, on this farm here, I think I've got, I think I counted 33 apple trees, and I just planted 3 pear trees within the last 5 years. One's a Bartlett, and the Bartlett tree, I showed it in a video, and it's only about that big around, but boy, I had to pick early on. I had to pick some of them pears off there. It was going to bend the tree right in half. But the Bartletts, as you probably know, are the tasty pears. And unfortunately, beside it, I have a kefir, which they tell you for pollinating, you don't want a kefir next to it. So I'm going to, in the spring, I'll plant early spring, probably March, I'll plant another Bartlett. And I'll end up with probably 5 pear trees. Deer love pears. So, persimmons, apples, pears. I mean, yeah, any kind of mast, is an advantage you.
Okay, and I got a little carried away here. There's some questions being asked in the chat that I overlooked because I was just having this conversation with you, so we both get carried away on that. But there's some folks out there want to know what your bow hunting equipment is, brand, and I'm going to guess maybe even the style of arrows and so forth. And
yeah, well, like I say, hunting where I hunt, and I'm going to kind of preface before I tell you. I think if you go out west, you need to have the best equipment money can buy in order to. Because they do a lot of walk and stalk hunting, and it's not uncommon, say, to take a 50 to 60 yard shot. Okay, the deer's bedded in the tall grass. You're creeping up. Deer stands up. Maybe somebody's with you. They range it. It's 58. You're taking that shot broadside. Around here, you wouldn't even grab your bow for a 58 yard shot. So what you need here is you need good broadheads and good arrows. So I shoot gold tip arrows, and I shoot the Swackers. And, a lot of people are all enraged about the Rage broadhead. And I am too, to a degree. But what I found with the Swackers is they fly they're very simplistic to use. They fly just like a field tip. And, I shot him with a Swacker, double long, 2-inch cut. But my bow in and of itself is a PSE. Now I have shot Diamond, Bowtech, Martin. I had a Martin bow, of course. That when I had a house burglary, I had a brand new Martin bow. There were 2 bows here. One was brand new. One was about a year old. It got stole with 7 guns. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like I said, I can go off on tangents.
So do you also use a crossbow or?
No, I don't. I did have a crossbow, and because for a while there in Pennsylvania they weren't legal. But when they were legal, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta go out and get one, But when you get up in a tree stand, even a good size tree stand, crossbows are big. Like a vertical bow, you can hang it and it's long. It's not this. you know, and they're just they're big, and I don't know. You can't get in Pope and Young with crossbow either, so I figured one day it'd be my luck, state record, and walk out and I'd have a crossbow, and you know, I don't know. It's just not me.
Well,
Not yet. Now, if my shoulder goes bad where I can't even pull back, like I think the state minimum's 35 pounds, but at that point in time, you know, you're taking 15-yard shots at deer. You know, I mean, my shoulder gets to the point where I can't draw back a bow and do it comfortably. You almost have to do crossbow.
well, I'm gonna show my age here, but back when I used a bow to hunt, I had a bear. It was a bear bow, BEAR, and it's
Yep.
just a recurve. You know,
Yep.
The compound bows were not even a thing at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when compound bows come out in Pennsylvania, it was kind of had a negative steep to it. You know, it was, oh, you guys are cheaters, and it's got let off at a certain amount. And to a degree, they're right. I mean, honestly, you know, my dad used a recurve. He used a 45-pound bear recurve, you know, and he shot deer with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if you practice with anything can be lethal. I like the efficiency of the compound bow. You know, I'm all about the challenge, but I'm not at the recurve stage, and I don't know if I ever will be. I might be. That might be my next conquest. Who knows?
Do you do any fishing?
Yeah. Yep. I've got a couple largemouth bass that are mounted on the wall. Trout. I grew up really trout fishing. You know, we live in the Antarctica, and I mean, it's it's trout fishing oriented here. Around here, if you catch a 5-pound bass, it's a giant.
Mm-hmm.
Not smallmouth so much, because we do have Lake Erie, and it's fairly common to catch them 4 or 5 pounds in Lake Erie. But as far as largemouth goes, I have caught a couple 6 and 7 pounders, but they're rare. They're really rare. But I lived in Georgia for a couple years, and I lived right on a lake, and I was a trout fisherman. I was really bummed out, you know, and then I just turned the tide and started bass fishing, and I liked it. And I liked the size of the fish there too. That made a difference.
Okay, Jerry, I'm sorry, I'm not catching what you're.
Nothing. They were just talking about bows.
Oh, okay. So, you said you lived in Georgia for a little while. Did you grow up in Pennsylvania, move to Georgia, move back, or how did that work?
Grew up in Pennsylvania, went in the military, went overseas, got out of the military, went back in the military, got out of the military, went back in the military. I mean, I've back and forth. But I've lived in, I don't know, 4 or 5 different states, New Mexico, Georgia, Pennsylvania. But Pennsylvania is where I was born and raised. And you know, I keep asking myself every time we get our first snowfall, like in November, what the heck am I doing here, you know?
Well,
But I don't know, maybe this year I'll go down to Florida and hang out for a couple of weeks and you know, break the monotony of the cabin fever.
well, I'm sure that everybody wants to know now what military branch you were in.
The first branch I was in was Air Force. And then I got out of that, and then I went into the Army. And I did 2 stints in the Army, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thanks for your support.
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't have what we have if it wasn't for our armed forces.
Mm-mm.
So, what we've talked just a little bit here as far as your growing season's pretty well over. If it's not over, I'm guessing you probably have everything harvested, maybe not, or you're in the rush to
Well, I
get it
have
done.
one small field. I did do an upload today, and don't leave to go watch the video. But I did do an upload today, and I'm kind of savoring a field for, you know, a harvest video, and you know, I'm not going to get much off of it. I don't really care, honestly. Between everyone in the chat and myself, it's really a field that's, I hunt over. So nothing gained, nothing lost. Whatever I get out of it, bonus. I may even just bag it. And
So how much property do you farm?
Well, that varies, and that's a good question because that varies. I do play the market, so the better the outlook is, the more property I'm going to go and grab. I could probably farm as much as 1,000 acres if I wanted to, right around here.
Okay, and now you've obviously now have just raised that question. Well, do you have 1,000 acres, or do you go rent property, or how does this work? And how does this playing the market work? So just kind of give a real quick synopsis of what goes on with that.
Well, crop farming, probably any farming, but crop farming in particular is just legalized gambling. You're playing the commodities market. Corn, soybeans, they're all commodities. It's a gamble. And, you're planting that field banking on making a profit. So, and the way things are going right now, it hasn't been good, but it hasn't been good because, a little bit of a game's being played right now to straighten some stuff out, I feel. So, you as much as it is a gamble, you do kind of still know, maybe how things are going to be. But yeah, you can lease a lot of land, a lot of farmers, dairy farmers have got out of farming and went into crop farming, or they sold their farm, or the fields are still available. You can go rent them. Around here, land's cheap. It just is. You go to like Ohio, and that ground goes for, it's cheap land out there's $100 to $150 an acre. And I heard some guys tell me that they're paying like $250 an acre. I don't know how you make a profit. I really don't. So yeah, most of the ground is leased.
Okay, so is there, and I don't know, but I mean, is there at the local elevator? I mean, do property owners put little tags up on the wall? Got property for lease, or how do you find the property? How do you know?
Ah, man, when you're in the business, you just know, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like, it's kind of like somebody's not a YouTube channel and somebody is. Like when you're a YouTube channel, you kind of know the ins and outs of YouTube. You know what channel's what and how they're doing maybe, and and where to go maybe to get this or that or the other thing. It's the same thing in this business. Oh yeah, Bob's Field's come up for, just in coffee talk, oh yeah, Jim's Field's coming available this year, or oh yeah, those fields been vacant for 2 years now, or you just know, when you're in this business, you talk to other people and they're in the business too, and you just know. And I know that probably didn't answer your question perfectly, but
so when you go in and rent somebody else's property, and I don't know this, but is this something that is it just a flat fee type thing, or do you perhaps, does it sometimes go into profit sharing or something? Or
I don't like to do profit sharing. I like a flat fee. Around here, land's going to go, let's just say $40 an acre, and you could go rent a 100-acre field for $4,000, pay it up front. A lot of guys, they're like, oh, I don't want to pay it until nah, I don't want somebody questioning whether or not I'm going to pay them. Just pay them up front, go work the field, get it done, and get out of there. And if it's a good field, you're probably going to want to maybe get a little bit of a contract on it, 5 years, that way, because you're going to put money into that field. You're going to lime it. Around here, you have to lime, we have acidic soil here, so you have to lime, and that's expensive. So you're not going to want to go in and fix a field in a year or two and then just lose it the third year to somebody else and they reap the benefits.
Okay.
So
And again, just to help everybody in the chat here, myself included, when you go and lime a field, this I've seen the big piles of like a white substance. I'm sure that's the lime, and it's spread out with some sort of a spreader. The equivalent of many years ago when they did the manure spreading, I'm guessing, is what the liming is. Is that similar?
No, the manure spreading was more like just putting the phosphorus and nitrogen and different things back into the soil. The liming has to do with the acidity, alkalinity. So, pH neutral is 7, and you're trying to get your soil to test out. I like 6.2, 6.3 or above, or better. And what that does is the more neutral you can get your soil, the more pH neutral you can get your soil, the better they'll absorb the phosphorus, the nitrogen, the potassium. Otherwise, acidic soils tend to clump and squeeze that, the nutrition that the plant needs and doesn't make it available.
And then to add nitrogen, that's usually done with a spray?
You can use liquid nitrogen. I do a pellet, it's like, I don't want to say it's a pellet form, but it's a white, like a white crystal. It's urea. So, but yeah, I've seen people, they side dress with liquid nitrogen, but I've never used liquid nitrogen. It's always most people I hate to say it, but a lot of people don't soil test, and that's a huge mistake to not know exactly what that soil needs. And they, when in doubt, they use triple 19, and go in and they just throw everything. Nitrogen, potassium, or nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and then plant their corn right behind it. And it's like, do you soil test that? Oh no, that's what Grandpa always used to do. And it's like,
Okay. And I want to touch on something else here. I'm sure that a lot of people are just going to close their ears and squeeze their eyes. But do you go out and, I'm going to say, kill the field first sometimes before you plant with glyphosate?
The glyphosate.
Glyphosate? Yeah.
Yeah, you can, or you can just plow it under. With the advent of no-till, in the old days when you had to plow and work a field, you couldn't go out and do 3,000 acres. But now with the advent of light till and no-till, you can do 4 times, 5 times the acres that you could when you're tilling, the soil, and it's definitely more economical to do no-till. It really is. I've used no-till before, and if we're comparing this to Cedar Point, farming to Cedar Point or any amusement park, no-tilling beats the fun out of it. It's like all you do is you load up the planter and you drag it through a field, all done. It's like, well, now what? And we're definitely moving away from any kind of dirt disturbance. And I could see 10, 20 years from now, hopefully my content's evergreen content in the sense that they're rare, because that's where everybody's going, just dragging no-till drills through a field and getting their soybeans planted, or a no-till planter and planting their corn. It's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. You're spending maybe a third of the fuel in wear and tear on equipment too.
Okay, well let me get Smudge out here and have him do a trivia question here real quick, and you won't be able to hear him. I'm sorry, but
All right.
We'll get him out here.
Well, hi folks, it's trivia time again, and we have to have some rules for this, so they are as follows. Number 1, you can only win once every 4 weeks. Number 2, you must be the first person to answer the question correctly in the chat window as it appears embedded on the screen here. Your chat window may have a different order. And number 3, you have to send an email to twofamilyhomestead@gmail.com. Send us your mailing address so we know where to send your winnings. Good luck.
Okay, and let me just kind of reiterate here for Smudge, for anybody that's new here this evening. The trivia questions, the official order chat you see embedded on the screen in front of you. That's what we have to go by. On your computer, the order is different. I'll just make it plain and simple. It is different than what you will see here. But this is the official order chat. That's what we will go by. So the first question that we have this evening, and this is Mr. Farmall asking the question. We ready? What tractor has been in most of his videos? And what we're looking for is the model of the tractor. What model tractor has been in most of the videos?
The star of the channel.
There we go.
Brian Campbell.
Brian Campbell. Farmall.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Brian. Okay, Brian, please send an email to twofamilyhomestead@gmail.com. Give us your mailing address, and we'll get you out in the mail something to plant. How's that? So, let me jump back in here.
Yes, Big Dreams Homestead. Tractors have models. Just like cars.
Yeah. Okay, so we've opened up the phone lines, and I see that things have gotten a little bit skewed here. So let me get that just kind of fixed up here real quick. Honey, you go ahead and talk while I get this resized.
Would you like me to talk about? I'm sort of having fun watching you try to readjust his eyeball. Hey, Sydney,
There.
how are you?
Okay, we
There
got
we
got him readjusted in the window here.
Okay.
So the phone line is open, folks. Either one of the two numbers that's rolling across the top of the screen, and you'll have to enter the meeting ID number. That's a 9-digit number, which is also going across the top of the screen. You'll be put into a room that I will admit you to, and at that point, you will be on the air. So feel free to call in and ask any questions of us or our guests this evening. So getting back to our guest here with the farming and the talk of getting the soil rebuilt and so on and so forth. How long can a piece of ground go without being worked before it's a major problem?
Well, if you're a no-tiller, you do a compaction test. All you do is you take a rod, stick it in the ground. If it doesn't go so far, then you know you gotta do something. But they'll come through, like I say earlier, with a ripper. Vertical tillage. Everything's this, not pressed down or anything like that. But yeah, you can go quite a few years in no-till without having to disturb the soil at all. But there, a lot of people use tillage radishes. Some of those radishes get a couple foot long, and that also I've heard people refer to it as mineral mining. It'll draw a lot of those micro minerals up from down under and bring them up to the top. And then that can be, I guess if you're a tillage guy, that would be like green manure, but, that's one way to keep your soil broke up. So I guess the short answer is, I should say, is that if you're doing it right, you can go a long time without any soil disturbance.
And I know I've heard of this before, that sometimes a farmer is actually subsidized by the government for not planting. Is that?
That's the CRP program. I don't remember what it stands for, but yeah, that's true. They actually paid them so much an acre to not like I was talking earlier about, paying somebody like $40 an acre to plant it. Well, and then in that CRP program, a lot of them were getting like $75 an acre to not plant it. And the way I understood that program, it was like a 15-year program. I don't know the exact rules, but I know there's a field down the road. It's about 15, 20 acres, and it's in that program. I did see last year they did lime it and they did brush hog it. So you're allowed to do the bare bones minimum that you'd need to, so that it doesn't become a forest. Because you let a field go for 15 years and it's going to be. Oh yeah,
it's all trees. It's all trees.
Yeah, poplars, the fine stuff first. The succession of 100-year succession of a forest. You'd be going on stage 2. So, yeah. But a lot of the land's coming out of that. So a lot of land's going to become available. The only thing I can say is that at that $75 mark, their land's going to come out with that $75 mark, and they're going to be like, well, I want $75 an acre. It's like, no, that's government rate. That's not farmer come, plant it, crops, put money into it, profit rate. That's,
Okay,
so.
And I've got a caller here on the phone. So it is showing here as Iowa Homesteading, and I've never had it show up this way before. So can you hear me? Go ahead. Oh, and we just lost him. They just went away.
There you go.
So I don't know if that's somebody Iowa Homesteading.
Could be.
But
not right off the top of my head. But
yeah, feel free to call back in. I don't know why we lost you, but certainly you're welcome to call back in. How large of a field is worth your time? In other words, a half an acre probably would not be worth the time to get the tractor out.
No, and that's a little bit tricky too, because I'll do I'll go and work a 5-acre field if I got a 10 beside it, and on the other side I got 8, and then down the road a half a mile I got 15. Like I call it tie-ins. Mm-hmm. Like one time I had a 30-acre field, and I saw another property owned by somebody else, and it looked like it was about 40, and I thought, ooh, that'd be a good tie-in. There's 70 right there. Knocked on the door, and he says, you're going to ask if you can work the field? I said, yeah. He says, it's in the CRP program for 6 more years. He says, come back then. So there you go. But yeah, I'll work a smaller field if it's next to a bigger one, to tie in, and, but a standalone field, man, anything under 10 acres, I don't even want to touch it. I just don't. If I got to travel at all, I mean, even 10's pushing it. Really, 20's really nice,
And when you say travel, how far are you talking? Are you talking 20 miles?
More than a couple miles.
More than a couple. So
yeah,
it's really
if I have
close.
To go more than a couple miles, I want some beef to the fields, Okay. Yeah, because I mean, you're talking fuel, you're talking time, you got to load the tractors up on a trailer, or you got to drive them there, or you got to, you're probably almost definitely going to have to drive the combine there. Now I have a Perkins engine in my combine, which, I lucked out. It doesn't use any fuel. I can fill that thing. It's got a 60-gallon tank on it and pick 20 acres and still have easily 3/4 of a tank, and running 3/4 throttle.
Now you have to explain that to folks, because people are going to say, well, how do you do that? They want that in their car.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get a Perkins engine in your car. It just, certain engines, the way they're made better than others, and they're more efficient, and and the Perkins engine just has a good reputation for being economically fuel efficient. So, but yeah, if I've got to travel, then I mean, it's the juice is going to have to be worth the squeeze, or I'm not going there. I'm going to find a different place where there's a bunch of tie-ins, where I can, in maybe a 1 mile stretch, put together, 100 or more acres.
Okay. Now, I know that you, doing farming and so forth, that encompasses so many more things that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, you're more than just a farmer going out working the fields. You're a mechanic, you're a businessman, you're a gambler,
an accountant.
Yeah, an accountant. It just goes on and on. But as far as let's talk a little bit about the mechanical skills that come with that, and the ingenuity that one has to have, and I'm going to say street smarts that one has to have to be a successful farmer, small farmer, or large.
Well, you have to have a mechanical mind, I think, to start with. But when it comes to engines, things suck, they blow, they burn. So if something's not running right, it's probably one of those three things. If you do a check down on one of those three things, you're probably going to be okay. Most things in equipment have bearings. If something's not turning right or something don't sound right, it's probably a bad bearing that needs changed. And then there's belts. You got to check belts, chains. I don't know. I guess it's like riding a bike. Once you've done it a few times, you just know how to do it. Really.
But again, is this something did you go to school for any of this?
No.
When I say school, when I say go to school, I mean go to a formal school of any sort.
No.
Okay.
No. I don't know. I've always kind of been mechanical. I mean, anytime I've ever taken an aptitude test, I've always scored high in the mechanical and high in the electrical. Although I hate working anything electrical. It's tedious with little wires, and I don't like it. My dad loves it, but I don't. And but I do like mechanics.
So
that's a whole different ballgame.
You come from a big family? You got lots of brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, there's 5 of us kids. I mean, 1 sister, 4 boys. And I'm second to youngest. My youngest brother is 8 years younger than me, so yeah, he took a little beating.
So is everybody in the farming operations, or did they all go into other things?
No, I'm the only one dumb enough to do it. No, they all went on and did something else, entirely. But you gotta find your passion. You just gotta find what you like to do, and and that goes here to YouTube too. Is that and I know that I'm getting ready to go off on a tangent a little bit, but with YouTube, even you can tell the channels that enjoy what they're doing, because after a couple of years, no matter what, they're still around. And farming's the same way. If you don't enjoy it, you will not do it long.
Okay, so is your dad totally retired out of it, or is he?
Yep. Yep. He retired. He worked at GE for, I'll bet he was there almost 40 years, probably.
Okay, and now the big question: do you have kids that are helping you as you're aging on in
No.
your farming here?
Nope. I've got kids and I've got nephews and nieces, and and I think about it a lot, because it's like, I'm not going to be around forever. None of us are. And it's like, who's next, And so, I'm not going to be like, hey, you come here, I'm going to teach you how to farm. It's got to be kind of like an ebb and flow, a natural ebb and flow. You got to kind of gravitate toward this stuff. Because if you're the type of person that can't deal with something always being broke, something always not going right, yada yada yada, this isn't for you. It's not. And I mean, I could name family members that it's not for, but what would be the point in that? But I'm just saying, this has to be a natural gravitation toward it, or you're not going to cut it. You have to have a personality to be in this. You have to have a personality to be driving a combine down the road at, let's just say, 15 miles an hour, and have one of your drive tires come off, and it just be another day at the shop. A normal person isn't going to deal with that well. But if you are, this may be for you.
That's not a pleasant experience, I'm sure.
No. And that's yeah, and that actually did happen. That's why I brought it up. But
Wow.
Things like that, if you just have to be able, your perseverance levels have to be mountain high.
Okay, and City Girl Country Heart has asked in the chat here, what is your favorite thing about farming, and your favorite thing to grow?
My favorite thing about farming is being outside and having the sun hit in my face. It really is. Watching the progress. It's something that you directly are responsible for. You can't control for every variable. Like, you can't control for when you get too much rain or when you don't get enough rain or whatever. But it's your product, and that just being outdoors, having the sun hit you, watching your product grow. And my favorite thing to grow, I love growing soybeans. I just do.
Our girls like eating them.
Yeah. I got my grandkids hooked on eating soybeans.
They say they're not even that good for you, but I don't know. I just grow them and sell them.
Well, I know some of your videos, as I was looking through them, I noticed that your plants had a pretty healthy crop on them.
Sure did.
So looks like you were definitely doing something right there.
Yeah, the first.
Well, you can you can dig pretty deep in the pocket doing this, and you got to feed plants. You just do. You can't throw seed in the ground and cross your fingers and go, well, let's hope we get a good crop this year. You got to soil test. You got to put in the ground what it's calling for. You got to lime. You got to. Well, that's part of soil testing, but it's an expensive game. And I always like to think that you get out of it what you put into it. Doesn't always work out that way. Goes back to the uncontrollable variables, but you do what you can do, man. Just like anything in life.
Okay, well, let's get Smudge out here for another trivia question real quick, and we'll let you just kind of have a little break here and have a cold drink.
All right.
Well, hi, folks. It's trivia time again. And we have to have some rules for this, so they are as follows. Number 1, you can only win once every 4 weeks. Number 2, you must be the first person to answer the question correctly in the chat window as it appears embedded on the screen here. Your chat window may have a different order. And number 3, you have to send an email to twofamilyhomestead@gmail.com. Send us your mailing address so we know where to send your winnings. Good luck.
Okay, and just to reiterate here again, the official order chat is what you see on the window. And the question is asked by our guest here this evening. And this has to do with, I guess, one of his crops, sort of. I don't know. All right, here's question number 2 for this evening. What is my favorite breed of chicken?
Cooked. Oh, no, that's not it, huh?
Oh, did you say cooked?
Yeah.
Actually, they are a dual-purpose bird, so you're not far off.
What is my favorite breed of chicken?
And this is a hard one because nobody watches my chicken videos.
City Girl Country Heart. What was this about? You're not being able to get trivia because you just got it.
Yeah.
Rhode Island Red.
Rhode Island Red. Yeah, City Girl Country Heart.
For somebody who said she's not going to get it.
Okay, so
Terry?
City Girl Country Heart, send us an email, twofamilyhomestead@gmail.com. And we'll send you out some seeds to plant.
Yep, and I'll mail you a live rooster.
There you go,
And they are nice. You know, the Rhode Island Red Roosters get a bad rap, and I don't know why. I have 2 of them, and they've never even as much as approached me different than, say, a hen would. So I don't know if it's in the way you raise them. You know, I really don't know, but yeah.
So how large is your chicken production?
I could right now probably provide enough eggs when the hens aren't molting and they're in full production. I could probably provide enough eggs for, I don't know, like maybe 4 or 5 families right now a week. So, and I don't know. I'm thinking about doing one more chicken coop this year. I just don't know which way I'm going with it. It's a lot of fun. Learned a lot about chickens over the last couple of years. I can tell you that they are, when people, you say, oh, they're little dinosaurs. They sure are. Any kind of rodent, any kind of frog. I mean, you wouldn't want to be them running through the yard.
Are those what Dana had? Remember that last time we stayed there and we stayed up in their room? Is that what she had in the backyard? Were they Rhode Island Reds? Do you remember?
Oh, she might have had some. She had a variety of different
yeah,
types.
they were like, she said they were like big dinosaur type. That's why it dawned on me. I wonder if that was it.
But,
Yeah, I have one rooster. I'll bet he goes 10 pounds. I mean, he's a beast.
Wow.
I call him Rex. He looks just like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, so I call him Rex. And my brother was telling me last night, he's like, this girl he works with, she's like, oh yeah, my chickens are ferocious. And he says, yeah, how do you figure? She says, there was this baby woodchuck. I don't know, most people call them groundhogs. We call them woodchucks out here. This baby woodchuck come running in the yard and the chickens killed it and ate it.
Jeez.
Well, that's one way to get your nutrition.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Protein rich, I guess.
Yeah.
They're mean, man. You'd want to try to outrun them if you were a medium to small rodent. But I have a pretty big problem with fox around here. I don't know if you guys know BNO Outdoors, formerly BNO Outdoors, now BNO. Great trapper, great trapping channel. And boy, I'd like to get him out here because I think he could put a smackdown on these reds and grays that are just. Now, admittingly, since I got my roosters, I have not lost a hen. Call it coincidence, call it what you will, but with the roosters, I haven't lost one. And I don't know if they're more alert and they alert the hens so they take cover and they get to where they need to be to avoid the predators, or what the real scoop is, but call it what it is. You know, I haven't lost one. So I think right now having a rooster is because everybody's like, oh, you don't want one of them. They're mean. They're this, they're that. I got two and neither one of them are mean. So, and they're actually quite friendly. I can pick them up. I can, set them down. Now, I don't have little kids. So, maybe a 4 or 5 year old kid that's small,
Right.
maybe they would treat different. I don't know. But not aggressive at all toward adults or adult-sized people.
Well, we definitely have people talking about all different types of chickens here, I see.
And Brett and Cindy, Tennessee Gardeners, asking, what is your favorite of all Farmall tractors?
Probably the M, really. Probably the M, because the M was the beast of the farm at one time. My M's a 1940. They started making the M's, the letter series, in 39. But I would say the M. A lot of people are all about the H, and I think that has a lot more to do with transportability than it does it being that much better or different of a tractor than an M. In fact, I did talk to one guy at a tractor show, and I says, really nice H you got. He said, yeah. I says, what, you don't like the M? I was just, messing with him. He says, oh, no, I love an M. He says, but my trailer, he says, it's just a lot easier to haul an H. So I don't know. I like an H. I have a 2-bottom plow I'm going to buy an H for and make some videos, and then put the 3-bottom on the M, which it calls for. And then I just bought a 4-bottom fast hitch. So I'll run that on my 756. Really, I think that 4-bottom in this soil would be really cool on a Farmall 400. Put just a little bit of front weight so it doesn't get too, dicey in the front. But I think that'd be really cool.
Well, let's talk about the tractors here for just a moment. Do you find it advantageous to run older tractors, older equipment, versus buying something new? Let's take the cost of stuff out. Have tractors really improved? I mean, a car, for example, driving today's car is much nicer than driving one that was made in 1940.
Well, if you're going by drivability and absolute comfort, probably. But have they improved? No. New ones are computerized. Most of those computers that run those tractors, you don't even get to own. The company that you bought that tractor off of owns the software, and they let you know that. I can't remember if it was 2012 or 14. Those 2 years ring a bell. They put emissions on tractors. So if you want a 200 horsepower tractor with the emissions crap on it, you better go get a 250, 300 horsepower tractor. So are they making them better now? No, not in my opinion. Maybe for comfort, maybe as far as that goes, the cab features and the air ride, and I didn't even feel that little bump. I'm not looking for that experience yet. I'm still young enough and vibrant enough. I can take a little hit, and it does take you a while when you're riding, an open station tractor. It does take, I call it tractor shape. After not riding one in a field for a long time, it takes you about a week of jostling around, moving around and hitting bumps and, you do kind of, after 8-9 hours on a track, you do kind of get off stiff, but once you're in tractor shape after a week or so, you're fine. But as far as comfort, yes, they've made them better. As far as what the machine actually is, no, not in my opinion. No, the best tractors were made, in my opinion, in the 40s through right up till about 1980, and then they started with the garbage. And John Deere made some good stuff, past that, up to the early 90s, but once Case IH took over, nah. I'm an international. I'm not a Case IH fan. I'm an international Farmall fan.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Tractors are different than vehicles. I have a friend that sells cars, and tractors don't really depreciate like a car. You buy a car, it's $50,000. You drive it off the lot, now it's 35. You own it a year, now it's 25. Tractors aren't really like that. I mean, I can go out and buy an International 1066 for, let's just say, $10,000. And in 5 years from now, that 1975 International 1066, I sell for $11,000. Maybe because I put some new tires on it or something. I mean, they don't depreciate. It's just a different business,
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's talk about something else here. One of the things that I really enjoyed about going through your channel, through your videos and stuff, was the auctions. But I'm kind of an auction type guy here anyway. I've always loved to go to auctions, and the farm equipment auctions I've always found fascinating. Your stuff. I can tell that by just you walking around and calling things out. But I think that's a fascinating thing that you've chosen to share with on your channel there. And what got you? Let's talk a little YouTube here for a minute. What made you decide to start showing some auction stuff with your channel and some your style?
Selfishness. When I started my YouTube channel, it was I didn't know anything about. I didn't know, like, there were people that were monetized and there weren't people that were. I didn't know that I didn't know you got paid to do YouTube when I first started. My only mission when I first started my channel was I was gonna upload some videos. Where it started, where it stopped, I didn't know at the time, but I knew that I was gonna have some footage to where if the platform was still around in 40, 50, 60 years, my grandkids were going to be able to look at some videos and go, oh, look at that, and they never knew me, but they can get to know me maybe through the videos. And it was always about, well, I'm not going to go out of my way and do things I don't do or don't like to do. I'm going to do things that I do like to do and that I do. So, I guess a little bit of selfishness in there, in that I was going to auctions anyways. So why not film them? Why not do, and come to find out, there were a lot of local guys that go to some of the auctions that I go to. And what I try to do is the one local auction, I try to get there Thursday evening or Friday morning and quickly upload that preview, save them a trip down there. Okay. Save them a 20, 30-mile trip to go walk the lot to see if they want to even go to the auction to begin with. So it worked out. I mean, luck, selfishness, my interest in it, because you're not going to get a better deal than at an auction. You're just not. If you're patient, that's where the deals are. It's not Craigslist or eBay or any of those places.
I have,
or Facebook Marketplace.
I have noticed that you have some Amish in your area there. I've noticed that from some of the auctions. At least I believe they're Amish. You're not saying anything.
I think a lot of the guys that you're seeing there are Mennonite.
Mennonite, okay.
But yeah, I don't want to say there's not Amish around here. We're heavily populated with Amish, but I think a lot of the guys that are at the auctions are Mennonites. They drive tractors and they drive, they're not on horse and buggies. That's kind of how you can tell the difference. They're like, I guess the best way to say it is they're modernized Amish,
Yeah. We have the same thing here where we live. Matter of fact, I drive some Amish folks from time to time, and the Amish folks that I drive, yeah, they are horse and buggy, without question. But they also build their own wagons, the steel wheel wagons and stuff like that I've even pulled down the road for them, and they do frequent a lot of these auctions and so forth, and they can own rubber equipment type things. They just can't work them or something. I don't know what all the technical things are, but
they're not supposed to have anything like gasoline burning. They're not supposed to have cell phones, but they all do. I mean, back before cell phones, they weren't supposed to have a phone. But, you go to a lot of their houses and stuff or whatever, and they'd have, go around the back of the barn in that little side room there, and then there's a phone hanging there, I mean, it's not really safe to not have any kind of communication device, especially, in the homesteading, farming, lifestyle, because it's dangerous,
mm-hmm.
And
but I've always found them very fascinating from the standpoint they are very good farmers, or at least wise they are here.
Yeah, hard workers. You're not going to outwork one. Ain't no way. And actually, I had my place here timbered, and the Amish come in, and because I didn't want a skidder in here rutting the place up, so they come in here with a team of horses and cut and skid the logs right out.
So let's talk a little bit more about your property here. How many acres do you have?
About 50.
You got about 50, and are you? I'm going to say I just feel this anyway that you're not an off-grid type person. You want the nice amenities of having the electric wire coming into the house and so on and so forth. Maybe fuel oil heat or something, or gas. I don't know.
A little bit of wood, fuel oil. I like my niceties. I'm not the type of person that couldn't survive under what would you say, an SHTF situation. But I'm all about having electricity, sure, I'd like a lower bill and stuff like that. But no, I'm not trying to live off grid. If I have to, I can make it. But, not trying to unnecessarily.
So do you do all your own outbuilding construction and so forth like that for storing all of your?
It depends because sometimes you can have it, outsourced cheaper than you can do it, or right there about. And it's like, well, if I can pay you to do it for 15 grand and I can do it myself and do all the labor and take up all my time for 14, then you're doing it, so it just depends, sometimes it can break down like that. Anything you need built or roofing or anything like that, you definitely get a hold of the Amish around here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's where I was kind of going with that, because I think they're a tremendous resource, at least wise in this area. And if you're in areas where they're not around, I mean, it just makes it that much tougher for those folks. Now,
it's the lowest bidder at that point, and it's usually not very low.
Now, I did want to just kind of touch on something else here, and I'm going to ask, just from your knowledge and opinion. Sherry and I did a lot of traveling last year, And we had the opportunity through some of the states we went through where we'd be traveling somewhat off of the main interstate down it was definitely a state road, and to literally be buzzed by these airplanes that are spraying the crops.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fascinating to watch those guys. They are absolutely crazy flyers.
Yeah.
But can you, just based upon your knowledge, can you lend some insight perhaps as far as what might they have been spraying on those crops? What did they do with that?
Well, it's probably the same thing that we're spraying out of a sprayer pulled behind a tractor. Herbicides, most of those crops that they're spraying. I mean, it could be nitrogen, could be liquid nitrogen if they're flying over corn, you can burn the corn doing that. But basically they're flying over, and if I had to guess, without absolutely knowing what's in the plane, I would say a lot of it's probably glyphosate.
Okay.
Cover a lot of ground with it, but we don't crop dust around here. We just don't. We don't have the 4,000 acre fields that it's more economical to fly over than it is just to.
Oh yeah, these are big flat open fields, and I know you don't have that kind of. The landscape's not that way over your direction.
Yeah. Brenda's saying,
No.
don't get her started. She hates when they're going around her property. I knew she'd comment.
Yeah, we've got to have a gal in the chat here that's out in Missouri, and apparently out her way they have some of these crop dusting planes, if that's what you call them.
Yeah.
But no, for that time of year, I don't think it would have been. I'm going to say it probably was nitrogen or something. I mean, it was definitely not
like a fertilizer type.
Yeah,
deal.
some sort of fertilizer.
Yeah. What month was it?
Oh, this
wasn't in July, because we were coming back from. We had the kids, so it had to have been August after we left the live conference.
Yeah, it would have been August.
Because Kaylee was watching them.
Yeah, would have been August.
Yeah.
All right.
The grandkids, were fascinated. Of course, I was too, watching this guy flying right on top of the field.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch, but and I know there's a little bit of that here in Ohio, especially maybe more to the west. But
I think if you get can't remember, is it between Columbus and Cincinnati where it's real flat and open?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they might do it there, but most of them have self-propelled sprayers. They go out and they're just looks like a big tractor, and it's got these arms and big tank on it, and it just
that's what they do here.
Mm-hmm.
So, current crop is soybeans and corn. Is there any other crops you could plant? What else would you possibly plant?
Yeah, well, like I say, I've touched on it already. Like a cover crop, maybe radishes, the bulb type plants to mineral mine, bring the minerals up from down below, and use for green manure. I like to work my dirt just because it's fun. So that's really about it. Those are my two. Maybe a little bit of wheat, but the money's not been good in wheat. That's a juice worth the squeeze type of deal. I thought about putting some oats in maybe this year, grinding up my own chicken feed. I mean, the chickens, I'll go to the co-op and buy them land mash, and there's oats in it. And boy, they pick them oats out first thing. And then the next thing's the corn. And then, my chickens they're pretty spoiled. They want for nothing.
I see that somebody, Brian Campbell in the chat is saying quite a few Mennonites here too, but the Amish are more into construction.
Yeah. The Amish here, I think, are more into construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what else would you like to talk about?
Well, I don't want to open up the can of COPPA, but COPPA, what's going on with YouTube in and of itself, just it'd be interesting to see where it's at in a year from now. I think the learning curve is going to be a lot bigger than what they're saying.
I don't see your channels having any issues with it at all, to be honest with you.
I don't think right out of the gate, but how do you stop it? Because they're defining a child as anyone under 13. So I guess my question is, I market not for kids, but how do I stop a 12-year-old from being on YouTube, number one, and then watching a guy drive a tractor around a field, number two? I don't.
You can't stop that. But your videos are not intended to entertain a young child.
Right.
And that's, I hate to say it, but to me this is a government thing gone bad.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it. There's no way. And I think YouTube had. All right, here we go. Here we go. YouTube.
Hang on tight, folks.
YouTube collects information from those people that watch so that they can make more money.
Yeah.
They know because they build the browsers, or other people have built the browsers, and it's a two-way street, and a lot of people don't understand this. They're thinking, well, I'm watching, they have no idea what I'm watching. Well, that's not true, because your browser on your computer, as you connect to things, it's sending information back to those things you're connecting to. And
right. Google's collecting data. It's what they do for a living.
Yeah, and they can collect this information, and they do it not to be nosy so much as to make more money, because they make money from advertising. And if they are watching, if your browser indicates that you've gone out and you've looked at seed companies, different seed companies, you're going to get advertisements about seeds, different plants and stuff. I was talking with a friend of mine today, and let's see, how did it go? We were talking about the mini split air conditioners, and so I did a couple of quick searches, and lo and behold, tonight on YouTube, I'm getting advertisements for these mini split air conditioners just because I went out and looked at a couple. I went to Menards, I went to Lowe's, I went to Home Depot, I went to another site, and I was just kind of comparing, because I was kind of in the market for one of these mini splits that I thought this would be a good investment for the house here. And so now I'm getting advertisements on YouTube for mini split air conditioners.
Yep.
And they do this because they make money this way. The problem is, if I were under 13, they would not legally be able to do that. Well, there's no way for them to know the age of the person behind the screen. That's the problem.
No, and even if there was some kind of a makeshift way, there's no way to tell if that person's telling the truth. Well, you could be 12 and say you're 18. It doesn't make it true. So I think that this is going to be an interesting. If we were sitting here talking in a year from now, it'd be very interesting, the conversation, to see if what becomes of this, and we'll see.
Now I know that well, YouTube says you can't have an account if you're under 13 years of age. I mean,
Right.
okay.
Right. Well, they made YouTube Kids, but YouTube Kids don't like YouTube Kids. They like YouTube.
Well,
You know, and it's like,
but even so with YouTube Kids, it was the parents that had to sign up.
oh, I didn't. Okay.
It was the parents that had to sign up. So in other words, the parent had to buy into the, supposedly, unless there was just outright fraud and lies going on, which that could be the case too. But
Right.
the parents had to buy in to allow their child to participate. And there are YouTube Kids that are in the single digit age bracket, and I'm talking 8, 9 years old, that have millions of subscribers on their channel. And that's just a flat out kids channel. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and that should be flagged as a kids channel. And anybody watching that channel, I don't think there should be information retained from Google/YouTube or anybody else, because it is a kids channel. Now that's
Yeah.
just my opinion. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
YouTube did in fact do that, and so the FTC said, well, you can't do that. They fined them $170 million, which was, it sounds like a lot of money, but for a giant conglomerate like Google, it's nothing. It's a couple hours of income.
Yeah.
So
Yep. No doubt about it. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not in an uproar about it really, but I am slightly concerned that this is the third time they've more or less changed their terms of service this year. So, you know, we'll see.
Oh yeah, it's coming down, but I can understand what happened, why it happened. I don't have any good answers, but I certainly don't like the idea of the government stepping in and saying, putting their 2 cents in either.
No. No constriction. No, thank you. I agree totally.
So, anyway, is there anybody out here in the chat that's got any questions for him? Let's go this way. And I think it's been an awful interesting night.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been.
I think it's been a very, very interesting night.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
I mean, it's a little bit off the beaten path for us, but it's just been very, very interesting. And
It's like a cousin, you know, like this type of farming is like a cousin to homesteading. You know, it ties in. It definitely does.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm subscribed to a lot of homesteading channels. A lot of homesteading channels are subscribed to me. And, you know, a lot of the things you do as a farmer, you do as a homesteader and vice versa. You know,
Well, and let's just talk about that for just a second. Do you also have your own little vegetable garden and stuff that you tend and take care
yeah.
of? So you do.
Oh, yeah.
You do.
No, I don't get too exotic with it. I'm a basic kind of guy. I like my maters. I like my sweet corn. I like my cukes. You know, what else do I like? I do put some zucchini in, the yellow squash, but it's
The summer squash.
yeah, but it's anyways, I cook it on the grill and it's just
like a long neck.
yeah, it's good. Split it right in half, throw it on the grill, and it's got the smoky flavor with the butter and it's
like
good.
a butternut squash.
Yeah, and butternut. That's it. That's it.
Butternuts.
But
winter squash.
But dark star zucchini, I put those in the ground. You know, just pretty basic stuff. I go to a lot of homesteading channels, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're planting this Zulu plant. It produces this fruit." And I'm like, not that I wouldn't try it, but I know what I like, and I'm going with the sure thing.
Do you?
You know?
What about? You had mentioned something about you have some fruit trees. You said you had some pear trees and stuff, but do you have like grapes or
No, not yet. You know, I'm thinking about getting grapes. A friend of mine has grapes, and funny thing is, I mean, not necessarily funny, but the vines attract a lot of the Japanese beetles, and his chickens are all over those stupid things, just hammering those beetles. Yeah, I'd get grapes. Not really a peach fan because of the fur. When you bite into it, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right in my mouth biting into that fur.
A lot of kids are like that.
And
I used to have to peel them for my grandson.
yeah. If they're peeled, I'd eat them, beat the daylights out of them, but not with the fur on them.
Yeah.
And I just
So do you do any canning and preserving and?
no. That stuff I'm gonna tap into. You know, I'll be going into my second year, I think, on YouTube. And I'm going to start tapping into some of that stuff and see how it works out for me. But either way, I'll do it personally. But I'd like to also get blueberries, get some of them going, man. I love blueberries.
Okay.
How much property is your garden? How big is your garden?
About a half acre.
Okay.
About a half acre. I plant way more tomatoes than 10 families could eat. You know, I mean, a lot of them. I was going
to say
I'll get volunteer growth in the spring out tomato plants coming up. You know.
Yeah, you just impressed me as the 100 tomato plant person.
Yeah, and a variety of the beef steaks and the cherries and I mean, you know, and you know what? The chickens love them too. I throw a tomato down and it's gone in, I don't know, 2 minutes. It's gone. Big, you know, good sized tomato.
Question here: what's one crop you do not have but want to grow?
You know, a local farmer around here is growing industrial hemp. I'd like to learn about that and see what the profitability of it is. So I don't know, other than maybe looking into that and see what the profit margins are and whatnot. Other than that, I'm pretty much doing what I want to do.
Also asked if you stopped doing your Friday night lives.
Well, the weather got better, so I got busy in the evenings, and so I went on during the day, and we're probably going to start those back up again probably in a couple weeks from now. We'll start doing Farmall Fridays again, you know, 7:30 to 9 or whatever.
Okay, and Grandma So Happy Homestead wants to know what you do with all your tomatoes.
I eat them. I feed them to the chickens. I give them to family. You name it. I mean, pretty much. My brother likes to make salsa, so we like to make salsa. You know, with the cilantro and the onions, grow some onions and the tomatoes, and you know, again, not too exotic, not too overboard, but definitely got to use for a lot of tomatoes.
And Naked Gardener is asking, thornless or thorned blueberries?
Oh, I'd probably go thornless.
I guess I never knew blueberries had thorns.
I didn't either.
Yeah. I know
Any ones I've ever seen were not thorned.
Yeah, I know raspberries do, but I never knew blueberries
I,
did.
Yeah.
I just read the question.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Just throw your netting over it, keep the birds from eating them before they're ripe, and when they're ripe, and pick away.
And Big Dream Homestead is asking, will you be doing salsa videos next season? And,
Well, possibility.
and I'm going to
Have my
expand.
brother,
I'm going to
have my
expand
brother
that.
well, get him involved. You know.
Yeah, are you gonna get some of your family involved in some of your videos and expand out and
Probably. You know, my initial intention was, you know, about 20% of my channel was going to be hunting videos and stuff like that. But I found out that, they don't really, they're not going to flag you for putting the videos up, but they're not going to monetize them. And if they get too much to the level of gore, you have to age restrict them. And you know what? At the end of the day, I just don't want to go that route. I just don't. So 20% of my channel is going to have to be replaced with something else. Last year, I was going live out of the tree stand. If deer would come out in the field, I'd go live, and from that aspect. But I did a couple of videos where we recovered deer last year, and I didn't get a nasty gram, but I got the yellow dollar sign, and that was enough for me.
Do you let your chickens free roam, free range?
Yeah. Yes, they're all free ranged.
So do they go into your garden? I mean, how do you maintain a garden if your chickens are free ranging?
It's just weird. They don't. I can't explain why they don't, but they don't. You'd think they would. It's a big area. I mean, but they don't. They come out of the coop. First thing they do is start hammering the grass and the clover. And then they just go around, start scratching for bugs. But I've never had a problem with them in the garden. And I'm glad of that too, because on the other side of the garden, that's where we're starting to get into fox territory. So, but yeah, knock on wood, so far, so lucky.
Okay, well, you got anything else on?
No.
It's been a wonderful evening here. We've certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
See, somebody's talking now about gojo berries, and we're talking about hibiscus and pink blueberries, and oh my. Okay, very quick. What about things like ducks? I know a lot of people that have chickens maybe get some ducks too. Is that a thing, or no interest?
No, I don't know. I never really, I have a creek that goes behind my house, but in order for the ducks to get to it, they'd have to go through hostile territory. No, if I ever got anything, I would get one of those big, mean, nasty goose that they say if you raise them as babies with the chickens, they'll think they are one, but they still have the goose instinct to protect. And so I would consider one of those just for, an added bonus to the roosters.
Okay. Well, that's on my prize. Just glancing back through here, seeing if I see anything else. And I think what we're probably going to do is just have you kind of wave to folks. Have a good evening. Don't go anywhere. I don't want you leaving us here. But we're going to go ahead and shut the stream down. But you hang on if you would. And Sherry, you got any last words? Anything?
Not that I can think of.
Thank you all for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Tomorrow night we'll do our Tech Tuesday, and go on from there. If you have not had the opportunity to go check out Farmall Fanatic, please do. Great channel, very interesting videos. Does a nice job. Mm-hmm. So,
yep.
Everybody take care. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.